say this was a dumb event when I first did it, and the other 3 times it still is, and I'll be back next year.
The Karapoti is a classic in more than name.
I can't think of a race in the United States or Canada that I've done that compares to it.
This is just like, overshines anything, basically, that I've ever done.
You go out there and you're out there for 3 to 4 hours, depending on your ability, but there's no shortcut home if you have enough.
I put an ad in the National magazine, 4-page ad, saying I was organising the National Mountain Bike Champs, although back then it was called the New Zealand Off-Road Championships. And I had no authority to call it the New Zealand Champs, but nobody else was in charge of mountain biking because it wasn't a thing. When I started the Karapoti in 1986, we had 45 people from around the country come, and then it grew every year by about 20%. After about 5 years, we paid for TV to come and show it, and all of a sudden it grew to 1,000 people.
These are survivors from New Zealand's toughest mountain bike race, the Karapoti Classic.
And the reason it's so popular is because it is quite a challenge to do. It's also really enjoyable, so it's hard and rewarding as well. So everyone who finishes it has a great sense of personal achievement and relief that it's over, and they have stories about the hill climbs and the downhills and the mud and the rocks and the punctures and all the dramas. They all have stories.
The first 2 winners of the Karapoti in 1986 rode the course with backpacks and bike carriers. The equipment may have changed, but the spirit of those days remains.
For the first 5 years we organised the event and made no money. Whatever money came in was spent on paying for services and bits and pieces. So it was totally a labour of love. It was a non-profit experience. After we'd been doing it about 15 years, it became less interesting for us, which is why after 17 years we sold it to Michael, who revived it, and we're really happy that that happened.
It's got the 2 sides. It's the race that everybody wants to win in terms of the elite riders, but for the average person, it's the race that every mountain biker wants to sort of mark off at least one.
Yeah, I'm Michael Jakes, been organising the Karapoti Classic since 2002. I took it over from the Kennett brothers who established it way back in '86. Always been a keen runner and mountain biker and cyclist and triathlete and things like that. And yeah, eventually get into organising these things, or some people do.
Yeah, the Classic 50K, it's unchanged since '88. It's a really old school adventure ride, you know, around Upper Hutt's Akatawa Ranges. So if groomed, purpose-built mountain bike parks are your thing, then honestly Karapoti might not be. You know, it starts with a river crossing where every rider has to ford the Akatawa River, then it heads straight into the historical Karapoti Gorge on trails that were first established by Māori, and then they were later developed by the first colonial settlers for logging. It's really spectacular, but it also gets pretty savage. After a spectacular warm-up, things get tough real quick. There's a 4K climb up Deadwood Ridge, which is exactly what your legs feel like at the top. And Deadwood Ridge, it peaks out at 520 metres and then it undulates for several kilometres through regenerated native bush and a few bike-swallowing bogs as well.
So this little section coming up here is one of the harder ones.
The rock garden is one of Karapoti's iconic talking points. It's a really rough descent with rocks, you know, the size of soccer balls and waist-high drops. It only lasts maybe 3K, and then you get this spectacular reprieve at the source of the Akatawa River West before you gather yourself really for the next big hit out, which is Devil's Staircase. Devil's Staircase, it's the climb that everyone loves to hate. It's a super steep 2K to the 600 high TT. The track is so steep that in places they've cut massive steps up it. No one can ride all of it. You know, for most people it's a bike carry. Devil's Staircase, it's almost worth it though, because at the top you're at about 600 metres of elevation and you're about to start Big Ring Boulevard, which is 10k of big smiles downhill on fast four-wheel drive trails that take you down to Dopers Stream. And then from Dopers, you've just got one last big climb and descent over the pram track before returning through Karapoti Gorge to the finish.
Yeah, what can I say? Mountain biking, it's an inherently challenging sport, full stop. I mean, the challenges for the participants are huge. You know, Karapoti is a really tough event, but you know, for organisers as well, it's pretty hard to keep an event like this going. 2012, in fact, we had a flood that nearly cancelled the race, and we postponed it and came back 2 weeks later and ran it again. When we took it over in 2002, the event was costing about $25,000 a year to organise. For the 35th anniversary event, it cost about $75,000. So, you know, in less than 20 years, you know, the costs have gone up 200%. But unfortunately, in that time, you know, what people are willing to pay to do an event and what sponsors are willing to pay to get exposure out of the event hasn't really changed that much. And so, you know, we have to find new income stream and keep people coming into the event, and you know, those are the sorts of challenges every year.
And like everyone else, we had COVID challenges with repeated lockdowns and postponements, but we did manage to run the event every year and we, you know, maintain Karapoti's 40 uninterrupted years. That's a big deal. But there's also challenges like changes in the sport. Mountain biking now is a much more diverse sport with half a dozen different genres, and riders these days, they're much more recreational. So an old school, you know, demanding and adventurous challenge like Karapoti isn't everyone's thing these days.
You know, Karapoti's, it's almost like a bit of Kiwiana. You know, it's New Zealand's longest running mountain bike event. That says something. You know, it has a place in history in that sport, and they can go out and challenge themselves to take on something that they didn't think perhaps that they could have done before. That's the place that things like Karapoti have in society, is that, you know, they give people a platform to take on new experiences, and that's why the Karapoti Classic will always be there.